Imagine this. You're in a dimly lit room. Your only companions are an old CRT TV and an ancient dusty computer. The screen flickers to life. You pull up to the driveway of the family holiday home and park your car. It's good to be back. You open the glove box and find a key and a note from your father.
Hi son, hope you enjoy your break. You'll need to fire up the generator around back to get power and lights on.
Eventually you make it to your old room. On the desk is a gift-wrapped box. Dad has found your old computer! There's a game here too. You pull up to the driveway of the family holiday home and park the car. You can't stand to be near this place. This is how the horror anthology game Stories Untold starts. And what it pulls is essentially a magic trick. A flickering light, a change in shadow, or creaking footsteps can all essentially be supercharged through the power of suggestion. The other levels of the game are pretty similar in design. You are in an isolated space, controlling a doodah or a gizmo, or maybe even some kind of contraption. All beautifully crafted with the weight and heft of things made in the 80s. It's a cumbersome kind of joy doing things the old-fashioned way. It's great. The perfect demonstration of creative storytelling through a limited budget. In film, it's always wonderful when we can see a story told in a beautifully crafted world, befitting of the narrative. This can be hard to do if you don't have a massive budget, unless you're making hundreds of beavers. A film where the entire story is essentially gag-based in a silent era style, so the cheap effects work better. Cheap is not bad. Hundreds of beavers use stupid mascot outfits to make the funniest movie I've seen in years. And Stories Untold scared the hell out of me with what are essentially 6 3D models and good lighting. I guess I find it interesting when creators can remove something seemingly fundamental from storytelling and use it as a strength. Never underestimate. Characters are important in any story. They are our connection into the fictional. We feel the story through them. So without them, you feel kind of invisible. Not literally, more like you don't even exist. A lot of animators use this a lot. Some beautiful little slice of life, so normal. You feel like you've seen it 1,000 times before. It might seem counterintuitive to put boring stuff in your movie, but not if you do it right. The function of a scene disconnected from the main characters is usually to give you time to reflect, but also get a more whole impression of the world by disconnecting the audience from the main story, and instead, they get to see what's happening just around the corner. Sometimes quite literally, like in Children of Men, where the camera sometimes wanders off away from the main characters. A piece of media where this feeling of disconnection is the main character is the documentary series Traumazone, where filmmaker Adam Curtis went through 30,000 hours of footage from Russia between 1985 and 1999, displaying the fall of communism in 7 glorious 1-hour parts. The footage is raw and intimate and strange. There's no commentary voice, just some text sometimes.
То, что им положено, даже имеющий закон, не соблюдает.
The camera is very rarely acknowledged. You really feel like a ghost walking through the fallout of the ideology and faith of the Russian people, as every foundation of their lives crumble around them. And sometimes it's sometimes, it's pretty funny.
มื่อไหร่มาเนี่ยจะพวกเจ็บโง่เลยเอาไปดีเจ็บเอ้ยดีอย่างนั้นพวกนั้น
Here's a funny number. 150. That's right, it's Dunbar's number. Basically, the English anthropologist Robin Dunbar studied a bunch of monkeys.
I drifted off to study monkeys in Africa after that for about 25 years.
Including humans. And in the 90s discovered that we can comfortably maintain 100 to 200 stable relationships with other people. But just saying 150 is easier. Dunbar Britishly explained it as the number of people you would not feel embarrassed about joining uninvited for a drink if you happen to bump into them in a bar. Humor writer Jason Pargin has also popularized calling the number the monkey sphere, since it's the highest number of people us monkeys can care about. What does this all mean? Well, according to Pargin,
oh, not much. It's just the one single reason society doesn't work. It's like this. Which would upset you more? Your best friend dying, or a dozen kids across town getting killed because their bus collided with a truck hauling killer bees? Which would hit you harder, your mom dying or seeing on the news that 15,000 people died in an earthquake in Iran? Why should I feel bad for them? I don't even know those people. Exactly. This is so ingrained that to even suggest you should feel their deaths as deeply as that of your best friend sounds a little ridiculous. We are hardwired to have a drastic double standard for the people inside our monkey sphere versus the 99.999% of the world's population who are on the outside.
and yet, sometimes we do see those on the outside. I think it's what the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows calls sonder, meaning the realization that each random passerby is the main character of their story, in which you are just an extra in the background. It might be a bit of a reach, but by being dropped into these random moments in Traumazone, I kind of forget myself, and if only for some brief moments, I feel like I understand these complete strangers. When no one is a character, everyone becomes a character. 150 years ago, Claude Monet painted Impression Sunrise, which is where, you guessed it, Impressionism comes from. Monet was actually mocked at first for not having finished his work, but had merely left an impression. But as history has shown, by being merely an impression, the picture becomes somehow more real than reality. In a similar way, the lack of detail gives Traumazone a more impressionistic feeling. Like, you could make a ultra-realistic, detailed 8K RTX-on rendering of Impression Sunrise, and you could read the Wikipedia articles of what happened in Russia between 1985 and 1999. But the point here isn't to get a literal understanding of history, but an emotional one. Just the other week, I was in a second-hand shop, and hidden in a pile of old pictures, I found an old hand-painted family tree, selling for basically nothing. Someone had worked hard on this. Maybe no one's spoken these names in decades, but it is still here. This might make me sound a little creepy, but my favorite thing in any post-apocalypse game is honestly just rummaging around in other people's stuff. In fact, it's so bad I regularly fantasize about everyone in my block disappearing for a week so I can go snooping into their lives. Not because I want to steal anything, I'm just endlessly fascinated by other people's stuff and the little dramas they tell. I feel like the empty spaces left behind by people sometimes tell you more about them than actually talking to them. Nowhere is this more fitting than in the masterpiece that is The Outer Wilds. In this game, you play as a newbie astronaut, exploring a galaxy of really tiny planets in your cottagecore spaceship, until... Every 22 minutes, the sun goes supernova and wipes out all life in the galaxy. And then you wake up again, and have to explore as much as you can before the Outer Wilds. All over the galaxy you find these ruins of an ancient civilization who were wiped out in an instant. Much like in Fallout, you can find little notes about who they were and what they cared about. From jealousy and love to workplace rivalries, glimpses of their busy little lives. Yeah, you figure out their societal structure and technology and belief systems, but that's not who they were. What separates this from Fallout, though, is that it plays into the themes of the story in a much more central way. Now, you need to go and play the Outer Wilds before I spoil the ending. Now, it turns out the reason you are caught in a time loop is that the ancient aliens built a machine to send someone back in time just when the supernova hit. They didn't get around to using it, however, because they all died in a strange solar flare type phenomenon thing. Then you come along and accidentally activate it 281,000 years later. So you can relive those last 22 minutes as many times as you want to. You'll probably spend a lot of time trying to figure out the machines that the aliens built to, avoid the universe going ballistic. I mean, they built this time loop machine as a failsafe. Surely they must have some plan to stop it. That's just video game logic. I am the protagonist, I gotta figure out how to save the world. But here's the kicker. They never did. The universe has reached its ultimate conclusion, and no sci-fi bullshit is going to fix that. The only thing left to do is fuck around in 22-minute loops, or let it all end. Now, you can take the battery from the machine that's resetting time and use it to power an ancient spaceship going to the eye of the universe, which is outside of time or something, and it was basically like God or something? I don't entirely remember this part, but what I do remember is taking some final laps of my favorite places, visiting some friends for the last time, acing the RC ship a couple of times, crashing into the sun accidentally for the 50th time, saying goodbye basically, knowing that they and everything is going to die. Suddenly they were no different from all the dead aliens and their dusty ruins. And neither were I. Lots of games have you venture out alone, and through that process you learn stuff about yourself and whatever, but you're still sharing the same universe as everyone else. You are physically isolated, but there are other people in the world. People who can understand your journey and sympathize with you.
Sam. Remember Sam. Sam. Heads up, Sam. Thing wrong, Sam? Sam. Okay, Sam.
Here, though, it's like you become a spectator to your own universe, entirely, completely alone. Except for this guy who's also stuck in the loop, but screw this lazy bastard, he doesn't even do anything. When I janked that battery out, my heart sunk. It was done. I had pulled the plug. Everyone was already dead. They just didn't know it yet. But the thing is, that's also true outside of the game. Like, yeah, we all know that everyone we love and yourself will one day die, but have you actually sat down and truly taken it all in, the way you only can sitting in your quiet spaceship with a plug to the universe that you just pulled right next to you? Luckily, God is pretty chill and you get to hang out with your friends one last time and ride out the heat death of the universe in style. And this isn't like a, oh wow, death is actually good because without death then life has no meaning bullshit. Life is beautiful and weird and terrible and fascinating either way. But death sure helps make you see that. All these people, these places, these riddles, all seem so infinite and grand. The rules of storytelling we are so used to tell us that there must be something more here. Some hidden machine, a secret lab, a final puzzle to save the world in the nick of time.
something, anything.
But it doesn't have to. Sometimes things just are, and then they aren't. Everything fades. It is very strange that a game about camping and roasting marshmallows and heading out into the wild unknown by yourself to explore the world is actually about death. But it just works. Because dying also means you have lived. You were here. And that's something. Crap! Almost forgot the... So what is the power of nothing? Well, the medium is the message. It's a well-known but not always easy to understand quote by renowned communication theorist Marshall McLuhan. How a story is told changes our understanding of it. Stories untold go for a minimalist approach by implying that there is something scary going on somewhere else and then letting your brain do all the work. Meanwhile, Traumazone shows you way too much of what's going on to the point of exhaustion. The Outer Wilds has a more traditional breadcrumb narrative, but then completely subverts the story by cutting off a part of it. And yeah, I know there are other reasons you're actually a special hero anyway, and there is a lot more to the ending if you look into it, but that wasn't my first experience, and art is subjective, so please don't be mad at me, Outer Wilds fans, I love you. My point is that they all chose, either for artistic reasons or budgetary, to remove an essential part of their own genre. And replaced it with... Okay, that's the video. You like this? Because, yeah, you can subscribe. That would be nice. Thanks. Also, I have a Patreon, where I'm planning to do more stuff. I'm doing a review of indie darling Indica right now, and I think I'll do a cooking video soon. Or something. Bye.